There is no useless experience, as read by the author. Lesson 11. Every win starts from the inside out. Football legend Cristiano Ronaldo said in one interview, free kicks in his life, that when he is taking free kicks, he can see the ball go in exactly where in his mind, before he has physically even kicked the ball. I will never forget the words said to me by my doctor on the 5th day of March 2018. You have colon cancer. It's in stage 3, and you need surgery immediately. It had been the culmination of a lot of tests, and that morning I had woken up with a feeling that that was going to be the outcome of the medical investigations. Sometime in 2017, I had begun to feel some discomfort in my abdomen. I was having a lot of bowel movements and stomach pains that I had treated with antacids and painkillers throughout that year. Towards the end of the year, the dizziness started. I would be at work and have a lot of dizzy spells that would lead to a constant desire to sleep. We crossed over into 2018 and my wife began insisting I see a doctor. I was losing weight, but without any exercise whatsoever. Often, I was having to lean on things to make sure I wouldn't collapse or black out. Coupled with the dizzy spells, I had extremely haphazard bowel movements. A few months after I turned 40 and right before my diagnosis, I was traveling on an easy coach bus from Eldoret to Nairobi with my wife Wangeshi. It was a night bus leaving Eldoret at about 10 p.m. I knew I had a stomach upset, but I tried to sort it out with a tablet of Imodium, and I thought it would do the trick. Well, not that night. The first half to Nakuru was uncomfortable, but survivable. I spent the entire break in that city attending to breaking news matters from the gut, barely making it back to the bus on time. I thought I had gotten it under control, but alas, I had not. It was on the journey to Nairobi that things went completely haywire. By the time we got to the sleepy town of Limuru, just 30 kilometers from our destination, I was in bad shape and was only comforted by the fact that it was early morning and there wasn't any traffic. It seemed to me that Limuru had suddenly moved to Mombasa and we were just not getting to our destination fast enough. Like a scene from a thriller movie though, I struggled to hold it together until the last turn at Haile Selassie Avenue off Uhuru Highway, and just as the proverbial pot breaking at the door saying goes, all hell broke loose, right at Ajip next to Times Towers. Oh, so close. But unfortunately, I had sold myself. The entire bus smelled like a garbage truck. People were just clicking and making comments about grown men who were still babies and whatnot. I was the last one off the bus. My wife patiently handed me another trouser as I went to attend to myself. She didn't say a word, but I could see how she felt sorry for me all over her face. Let's not even talk about how the long walk of shame had been from the bus to the restrooms and then to the taxi area. I cleaned up as best as I could and even dumped the offending clothes in the trash, but the Uber guy taking us home still drove with all his windows open in the misty cold temperatures and a frown on his face the entire trip. I tipped him a little bit more, but the way he stepped on the gas pedal as he left said everything. It was just a horrendous experience. Embarrassing does not adequately begin to describe how I felt that day. That was the beginning of major indicators that something was very wrong with me. Later on, in February of 2018, I experienced a particularly bad episode of dizziness at work and ended up in the hospital later that night for what I thought would be a routine checkup. After some tests were done, it was established that I had hemoglobin level of 4.7, which was much lower than the average of 13 to 16 for an adult man. It meant I was losing blood, but no one knew from where. But it was an answer to my frequent dizzy spells. I was admitted that night, much to my chagrin, as I had thought I would be there for some tests and go home. The following few days were full of activity in terms of medical checks on my body and numerous tests. I endured an endoscopy, a procedure where an intrusive pipe is pushed down one's throat to the stomach for a clear view of what was happening in the abdomen. I also went through stomach x-rays and a wide spectrum of blood tests. I also had a colonoscopy, which is a look up a person's internal makeup from their posterior to the stomach through the intestines, and is a violation of one's privacy, to say the least. And so here it was, the diagnosis I had dreaded, coming at the age of 40, where life was said to be beginning, yet here it seemed that mine had screeched to a halt. After the diagnosis was given, my wife and I went home, and we tossed and turned in bed, unsure of the next steps and not speaking as we were both lost in our own thoughts. I thought of death and what that would mean for my young family. I wondered about what I would be leaving behind and questioned God about the timing of this yoke. There were no answers in the stillness of the night. At about 4 a.m. that night, I got up, woke my wife up, who responded with unexpected alertness, and told her I was going to beat this cancer. She affirmed it by saying, "Yes, you will." Unknowingly, we had just crossed the first major hurdle every patient must when fighting a disease like cancer. Over the next few days and weeks, we were led to a brilliant doctor called Dr. Kiptun, who would do the surgery later, and an eccentric older one called Dr. Abuao, who would be my oncologist. Although our relationship with Dr. Abuao started on a stiff note, he's one of those guys with little time for emotion and only doles out the facts, we ended up as best of friends. A support group was formed to help deal with the huge financial implications of the prognosis, which was surgery and 12 chemo sessions, and I got started prepping for the surgery and the consequent chemo sessions. Treatment took 1.5 years, and my support WhatsApp group remained active the entire time. God bless you all. The most important things about the cancer journey was the kind of support I received from my immediate family. I watched my wife morph into a herbalist overnight, often waking up to the sounds of a blender, mixing various things that would help with this side effect or the other. My mother made back and forth trips from Tabo almost every week to hang out and tell me stories. She called me every day when she was away. I remember one incident when I went in for my first chemotherapy session. My mom was in the room, and after a while I began to vomit violently, and she began to cry. I looked up and told her not to worry, because I would not die, and I could see the relief in her face as her tears went down her cheeks about my willingness to fight. Friends became family as they would come and go at various intervals to encourage me. Many people visited me during my days in the ward. I am forever grateful to you all. The Mater hospital staff, especially at OLC ward, really impressed me. When I had no visitors or family around, they were the ones who were there to encourage me. A nurse gave me hope when I had a terrible cough in the middle of the night, and I thought my insides would burst. A cleaner prayed for me on the morning of my surgery. I also got a new respect for women who go through cesarean sections. I salute you. At some point, you grapple with your own mortality while hospitalized, especially if you're wheeled into surgery and asked to confirm your signature on the consent form and strapped in a cross-like form with many gizmos strapped around you, monitoring your vitals. Then you know it's really life or death. They asked if I was scared. I replied, I don't scare easily. The vitals told a different story. They laughed, but then told me no one is absolutely emotionless at that point. Then there were my friends, those that showed up very frequently for visits that lasted less than 2 minutes. Those that sent me verses, books, songs, on the clock every morning and evening. There were those that literally brought a barbershop to my room every 2 days to make sure I didn't look like a prophet. And those that came to discuss politics and tell me jokes. They were the worst, because laughing after surgery was a killer. There were those that came for serious prayers and brought their guitars with them, and those that sent me texts, made calls, and talked very softly, thinking they would hurt me with their loud voices. The Sacho Boys Club, an association of former schoolmates from Sacho High School, were a great source of inspiration and hope. There were those that offered medical advice and were bumper to bumper with my doctors, like my friends Dr. Enoch Makori and Dr. Frank Mbai. Bless you. There were still others that I hadn't seen in years, but showed up and we picked up conversation as though no time had passed. They really warmed my heart. Others sent me comments on my FB posts that kept me occupied when I couldn't sleep at night. Then there were the night runners, led by Alex Mbai, who sneaked into my room late at night, way past visiting hours, and the Lone Ranger Herbert Karani, who visited me at 6 a.m. every other day. Not forgetting those guys who wouldn't leave till the security guard came back 3 times to chase them, like it was a ritual. At the core were my wife and mom, who interchanged noiselessly like an oil conveyor belt. I could go on and on. The point is, my life was interesting, even in hospital. I owe that to all the wonderful people who played a role in my recovery. There are those I haven't mentioned, but played very important roles. These two I will never forget. I also made peace with my dad on my hospital bed, with whom we hadn't been on speaking terms for a long time. We hadn't even seen each other in the 3 years prior to my hospitalization. The peace that conversation gave me throughout my recovery was priceless. My employers were so gracious, it moved me to tears. They not only assured me of a job, but they also went out of their way to do fund drives and gave me support both before, during, and after chemotherapy. It is no wonder that shortly after I got better, I got an offer to move to another media house, and I did not even consider it. It would have been a slap in the face of those who had stood with me in my darkest hour. I will forever be grateful to CAS International and its chair, director, CEO, and my fellow staff for the kindness they extended to me in that time. It was a rare thing, not usually done by many employers and workmates. I had excellent support, as you can see. However, I was also personally determined. It had to start from the inside. Shortly after my surgery, the doctor had requested that I begin walking. Sitting up was a struggle, let alone walking. However, after 2 days, I began taking baby steps. On day 3, I requested for the catheter to be removed, so I would have to walk to the loo when I needed to. Those walks were crazy, but I was determined, and the nurses told me I got better much faster because of my determination. 1 week after surgery, while I was recuperating at home, I began to experience severe abdominal pain. My friend Plapan and his wife Nancy had come to visit for dinner, and they ended up using their car as an ambulance to rush me to hospital. On arrival, I was put on morphine while investigations were carried out. The following day, the doctor delivered to me the news that my wound was getting septic and they would have to go back in again. Another surgery. I was devastated, but since I knew this was a complication that if left unattended could kill me, I braced myself to do the recovery journey all over again. The surgery was a success. Immediately after the surgery, I requested for the catheter to be removed this time, and it was. And that night, I was helped by my wife to make one of the most excruciating 20-meter walks of my life to the restrooms. I got to the restroom and cried tears of joy. I had experienced that feeling that one sees athletes get when they win a race. That feeling set the baseline for the rest of my treatment. The journey through chemo was long and arduous. I started my first 2 chemotherapy sessions where I had the surgery at Mater Hospital. Then moved to Nairobi Hospital, which was cheaper. Surprise, surprise. And it was full of different side effects at every turn. My hair fell off, my tongue and fingers were blackened. I got heat waves and sore throats and suffered loss of appetite and weight. I experienced mood swings and panic attacks as well as unexplained rushes. And even when I had the craziest of side effects like huge hemorrhoids, I kept my mind focused on the win. Later on, after the chemo sessions were done, there was suspicion that there could be a recurrence at a routine test. After some further tests, I went to India where I confirmed the cancer was truly in remission. I still do tests from time to time to ascertain the monster is truly vanquished, but I learned a huge lesson that I tell to every cancer fighter I am called to encourage. Just like Ronaldo, see the goal before you kick the ball. See yourself healthy again. See yourself winning, because you can, and you will. Every win starts from the inside out.